The strange thing about the Temple of Artemis is not that it was big, or old, or expensive. Plenty of ancient structures qualify for those labels. What makes it unsettling is that even now, with cranes that can lift skyscrapers and budgets that can fund entire cities, we still hesitate to build anything with the same intention. Not because we cannot, but because we no longer think the same way. When people in antiquity approached the Temple of Artemis, they were not meant to feel inspired or welcomed or comforted. They were meant to feel reduced. The building was designed to quietly inform you that whatever you thought you were smaller than this place, and smaller than the power it represented. That emotional reaction is rare in modern architecture, and almost non-existent in modern temples. The Temple of Artemis stood in the ancient city of Ephesus, in what is now modern-day Turkey, but reducing it to a location misses the point. It was not merely placed in the city, it reorganized the city around itself. Roads led toward it. Trade flowed through it. Reputation radiated outward from it. Long before someone ever saw the temple with their own eyes, they had already heard about it through stories that sounded exaggerated, almost fictional. And yet when travelers arrived, the shock was not that the stories were false, but that they were insufficient. The building did not need explanation. Its presence did the talking. To understand why the Temple of Artemis was considered more impressive than most modern temples, you have to abandon modern expectations of what a temple is supposed to do. Today, religious buildings often function as gathering spaces. They are designed for seating, acoustics, community, and accessibility. Their success is measured by how well they serve people. The Temple of Artemis was not built to serve people. It was built to serve a god assumed to be physically present and permanently watching. Comfort was irrelevant. Efficiency was irrelevant. Human scale was irrelevant. Only divine scale mattered. The goddess Artemis, as worshipped in Ephesus, was not the soft, poetic figure people sometimes imagine today. She represented fertility, protection, abundance, and order, but also authority and dominance. The temple was her earthly residence, not a symbolic house, but a literal one in the minds of its builders. This belief shaped everything. You do not build a modest house for a god who controls your harvests, your safety, and your future. You build something that declares submission before a single prayer is spoken. That declaration was the real function of the temple. At its most famous stage, the Temple of Artemis measured roughly 115 meters long and 55 meters wide, surrounded by approximately 127 marble columns, each standing around 18 meters tall. Numbers alone do not capture the experience, but they help explain the logistics. Each column was carved from marble, transported, aligned, and erected without modern machinery. Each one represented not just labor, but risk. A single failure could cost lives. The fact that the project continued anyway tells you how non-negotiable the temple was to the people funding it. Modern temples are often constrained by budgets and public scrutiny. Excess must be justified. Grandeur must be explained. The Temple of Artemis did not explain itself. Its wealth was the explanation. Marble was chosen precisely because it was expensive and difficult to work with. When sunlight hit the polished stone, the temple appeared to glow, turning wealth into visual proof of divine favor. Gold, silver, and offerings filled its interior, not hidden away, but displayed as evidence of devotion. This display of wealth was not controversial in the ancient world. It was expected. Prosperity was interpreted as a sign that the gods approved. A rich temple meant a powerful god, and a powerful god meant a protected city. This belief created a feedback loop where donations increased, reputation spread, and the temple's influence expanded far beyond Ephesus itself. Kings and rulers contributed not out of charity, but strategy. Being associated with Artemis was politically useful. The temple was also a bank, one of the safest in the ancient world. Wealth stored there was considered untouchable, protected not just by guards, but by religious law. Violating the temple was not theft, it was sacrilege. Modern temples rarely hold this role. Today, religion, finance, and governance are carefully separated. In ancient Ephesus, they were fused. The Temple of Artemis was simultaneously a religious center, an economic institution, and a political stabilizer. Engineering is where the temple becomes even harder to dismiss. Ephesus sat in an earthquake-prone region, yet the temple was built on deliberately soft ground. Ancient builders layered charcoal and fleeces beneath the foundation, creating a primitive shock absorption system. This was not guesswork. It was applied knowledge, passed down and refined. The choice looks counterintuitive until you realize that rigid foundations crack, while flexible ones absorb movement. This level of engineering intelligence existed without equations, simulations, or modern science. It existed because survival demanded it. The temple stood, fell, and rose again not because ancient people were lucky, but because they understood their environment deeply. When it was destroyed by fire, famously set by Herostratus in pursuit of fame, the city rebuilt it larger and more magnificent than before. Destruction did not end the story. It intensified it. People traveled from across the Mediterranean world to see the Temple of Artemis, not because they were all worshippers, but because witnessing it conferred status. To say you had seen it was to signal cultural literacy. It was an ancient landmark in the truest sense, not a tourist attraction, but a psychological one. Seeing it changed how people understood scale, power, and what humans were capable of when belief removed restraint. This is where the deeper question emerges, and it is a question that sits at the core of history of questions. Why do humans build things that exceed practical need? Why do we chase structures that make us feel insignificant? The Temple of Artemis answers brutally. Feeling small can be meaningful. In a world without scientific certainty, overwhelming architecture provided psychological stability. It told people that order existed, that power was real, and that the universe was not indifferent. Modern temples often aim to comfort. They invite reflection, interpretation, and community. The Temple of Artemis did not invite. It commanded. It assumed belief and enforced it through presence. This difference explains why the temple still eclipses most modern sacred architecture in reputation, even though almost nothing of it remains. Its power was never just physical. It was conceptual. Only fragments remain today. A single reconstructed column. Scattered stones. And yet its legacy has only grown. This is the paradox of the Temple of Artemis. Physically absent, psychologically dominant. It represents a mindset we no longer fully share, a willingness to pour unimaginable resources into a single idea without apology. We do not lack the tools to build something similar. We lack the belief system that would justify it. The no-cap truth is that modern society is uncomfortable with absolute devotion. We fragment meaning across many institutions. We distribute belief. The ancient world centralized it. The Temple of Artemis was impressive not because it was ancient, but because it was unapologetic. It was built to overwhelm, not inspire, and that intention is exactly why it still haunts architectural memory. If this way of thinking feels different, this channel exists for people who care about ideas that actually last. History of Questions is not about nostalgia for the past, but about understanding why certain ideas refuse to die. The Temple of Artemis refuses to die because it asks something uncomfortable of us. What would we build today if we truly believed something was bigger than ourselves? Despite all our technology, we still struggle to create architecture that makes us feel genuinely small without feeling manipulated. That absence is not accidental. It reflects a change in how we see power, belief, and ourselves. The Temple of Artemis stands as evidence that all was once a deliberate goal, not a side effect. It was engineered, funded, and defended as essential. And perhaps that is why the story does not end cleanly. The Temple of Artemis does not offer closure. It leaves a question hanging in the air, one that modern temples rarely provoke. Not whether we could build something like it again, but whether we would ever choose to. That unanswered question is the real wonder it left behind. If you value ideas that survive trends, subscribe.